The past 2 weeks have been special, simply because we've spent every day during the work week, if there is such a thing now, I don't even know anymore, where we had one-on-one Zoom calls with our models that are in development. So the new face girls, the ones who haven't really traveled yet, some have been in development for a while or incubator, a couple of them maybe have done like one little 2-week stint here or there. So in essence, it's our girls that are in high school, or in this case, it also included 4 high school seniors who are graduating in a year that will never be forgotten what their experience was. And we wanted to do the one-on-one calls because normally this time of year is when we're gathering, doing lots of testing. We do weekends because we manage models from all across the country. So there's just kind of a thing we have set in motion that would normally be happening that's not. And we thought it would just be good to, connect with each one of them and have a conversation. We were pleasantly surprised by kind of a universal theme that went over the 2 weeks of these many conversations. I think in total there was like 25 girls or something that we spoke with during this time. And it was, first of all, in this quarantine time, I felt like it's probably the hardest on kids and teens that would normally be running around and doing all their activities, and that isn't the case right now. And here's what was really beautiful. We noticed it the first day that we did it. We do 3 or 4 calls a day, and we were like, wow, that was really encouraging, because those initial calls, the girls were basically saying, one girl said, I've gotten to know myself way better. I'm way more confident. She had more clarity about what she wanted to do with her life. On the second day that we did it, and we realized, wow, the same kind of things are coming from these conversations, and they've been doing online Zoom workouts with John Benton, and they were saying how great that had become. Over this 2-week period, it literally turned into an almost universal conversation where each and every one said that the silver lining was they had discovered a lot about themselves. They learned more about self-discipline. Without the distractions, it gave them a lot of clarity. We had 4 high school seniors who obviously their situation was even more dramatic in the sense that they didn't get that senior year and the traditional graduation. But all of them said, honestly, in a lot of ways, it was really good. It was cool too to hear from them that they were taking ownership in their goals, their self-discipline, where they saw themselves. A couple of the girls, we had one girl who is a senior next year, and the original plan was that she was going to graduate after this December of next year. But during this time, it helped her value that high school experience a little bit more. And so she was like, I'm gonna do my full senior year, I think. And then I'm 100% in. And to see too, I felt like their communication skills were stronger. It just was literally kind of this beautiful epiphany of, wow, this was actually good for them. And I can say the same thing for myself. Today on Instagram, I did a personal post about what I've used these days for. For us, this is day 71. Early on, I became extremely intentional about how I was starting my day, what I was feeding myself as far as books, music, lots of journaling, lots of prayer. And you know what? It sharpened me. And I'm sure, like you, there were many days that were hard or challenging, or some days that I just didn't have the energy to even do that. But in totality, it was good. Perspective is everything. I've always believed that perspective is everything. Now I believe it 10,000 times more. Perspective is everything. I plugged into some trainings this past week with Michael Hyatt. He's somebody who I've been taking e-courses forever. I've read his books. I follow him on social media. I'm on his email list, and I plugged into something through another podcast that I had listened to. He has a new book coming out, which I ordered, and I can't wait to read, about vision. And he said, your language is access to your thinking. What you say is a declaration over your life. The words that we formulate. And I've always believed in that, but I've become even more aware, especially now that I'm plugged back into a renewed vision for myself, for our marriage, for our family, for our business. It's renewed, and I love that. He talked about, and I've heard this before and I had forgotten it, it slipped my mind, even in the way that we word things, not I have to, I get to. I remember hearing him say that a while back, and one of the girls was saying, oh, I have to leave tomorrow for whatever city she was going to go model in. And I said, no, you don't have to, you get to. You know, oh, I have to go to Paris. No, you get to go to Paris. It's learning to identify limiting beliefs. I am a faith-filled woman, but I can tell you that as I listened yesterday to being aware of catching yourself on a limited belief that you don't even know that you have, but if you take the time to hear what you're saying about a situation, about yourself, you realize that you can have a limited belief that's going to keep you from what you really want to do. Something else that he talked about was so good, and this was in context of people just getting caught up in life and busyness. He said there's 3 kind of ways that people navigate in their life. The first one is drift. You're not really intentional with what you're doing. You're doing what you've normally been doing. And he shared the analogy of being on a boat and all of a sudden realizing that you've drifted into this other place that you never thought you'd find yourself. I can say that I've done that in situations. I've done it in my fitness. I've done it in all sorts of things. You just drift. The second one, which I thought was really interesting, is he talked about people that are driven, but he used it in a way that was extreme. He said there were times in his life where he was so driven that he lost balance in his life. And he talked about how now more than ever, and I agree, there are people on social media that everything is about accumulation and success and drive and work so hard until you drop. And the reality is that you can't maintain that. You can't maintain it. There's supposed to be rest. There's supposed to be balance. And the third way of living, and I love this, and this is the epiphany that I'm taking away from quarantine time, although we're still in quarantine, a little bit navigating out there, is design. To design my life, to design what I want it to look like. I've always been a person of vision. I believe that without a vision, people perish. I do believe you have to have vision. Vision gives us hope. Vision gives us determination. I talked to a lot of the girls when we were doing those calls. I believe in dream boards. It was so cool to see one of our new faces. It was cool too to be doing these Zoom calls and they'd be in their room. And for each girl, you could see, if they were in their room, you could see their personality reflected in their surroundings, which I absolutely loved. And this particular girl had literally made her wall, floor to ceiling, a giant dream board of pictures of models that she looked up to and that inspire her. And I was like, yes, that is what you have to do. The reason why our office has our bulletin board and pictures of all of our models and pictures of the new phases that we're developing, and our house is filled with pictures of our family. It fills you up. You have to have a vision so that you can focus and design what you want your time to look like. I had a conversation with our son this morning about taking the time to look at what you want in your future. Stephen Covey was such a brilliant man, and 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is still just an integral book for anyone that is interested in making the most of their life. And one of those 7 principles is begin with the end in mind. You have to know what you want, where you want to go, how you see your life, and not just accumulation of things. How do you want your family life to look like? How do you want your relationships, your spiritual life? How does it want to feel? What impact do you want to leave in this world? In your career path, where do you see yourself today? But really, where do you ultimately visualize yourself in the future? Those things are powerful, and that's why those phone calls with these young teenagers looking at this big, giant, beautiful life in front of them is so inspiring to us. Because anything is possible, but I don't believe that that's just for them. That's for us too, and that's for you too, and that is the beauty of having a vision. Successful people ask better questions, and as a result, they get better answers. That's a Tony Robbins quote. Here's the deal. Those teenage girls taking the time in quarantine to discover more about themselves, to think about where they see themselves, to ponder the future, to embrace self-discipline, intention, it was powerful to see. And I've been on that journey during this time. Let's face it, it's going to be a long time before we all get back to whatever normal is going to be. Carve out the time. I can't tell you enough how much carving out that time can impact your peace. It can impact the direction that you see yourself going, and ultimately it'll give you more hope. And at the end of the day, we all need a little more hope. I hope you have a fantastic week. I hope that you maybe do a dream board, or maybe do a dream journal, or start write it down. It makes all the difference in the world when you write it down. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you next Monday.